Hey there you lot, welcome back to Packlands Fish. The video that I filmed as an intro didn't work yesterday morning, so I'm just doing a quick one from my desk chair. I will be back on the other side and we'll talk about what's been going on in the last week or so. So I'm breaking with tradition a bit today, filming on a Thursday morning. This is a day off for me from my day job, so I'm out here getting ready to do a fair bit of work today. We've got that crappy weather, which means I want to do a couple of water changes on some tanks where I can hopefully stimulate some breeding. Had a couple of mishaps this week, unfortunately. I think the last time we filmed I was crowing about having had a result with my Lethrinops mabarze rainbows, and we had a Zis box up here in the corner with 25, maybe 30 babies of those, and I'd added in some Solosi and some bristlenose to that little chamber, and I had a busy night at work, as I sometimes do. Came out the following day to find that bloody box on the bottom of the tank. Suction cups had slipped for whatever reason, and not a baby fish to be seen, unfortunately. So that was an expensive and disappointing loss, which is unfortunately what comes along in the fish keeping hobby at times. I'm on my knees at the moment, so apologies for the jerking, but I want to film some of the stuff down low today. We did some work in this next block of 6 tanks, primarily water change and harvesting. Some tanks were successful, some were not. Didn't get any results out of the Trophy Ops chalumbas or the Tiger fenestratus or the Christmas Fulu, which are the 3 species running in here. I did do a little bit of work on balancing up my chalumba colonies. So the chalumbas are the yellow fish are the females, and the blue boy hongy style looking thing is the boy, but I took out three males to try and see if that will put less time into squabbling and more time into getting on the job and doing some breeding. We'll see how that works out in the next couple of weeks. I got down here and did some work with my zebra obliquitans. This is one of the other Victorian style cichlids. It's not from Victoria, I think it's Lake Edward or Cuyahoga maybe, and we got a bit of a result. I stripped 3 of these. Excuse me. Sorry for the cough, I'm still getting over my lurgy. I stripped 3 of these. I'll show you a tumbler in a sec. And unfortunately I had a very small number of nice Africobway down here, and they'd just been gradually killing each other off. I don't think I had a good number of females, so I've moved the few that I've got left, which I now have to start over again with some fry and growing it out, the whole thing. So I've dropped in a young group of Lombardis or Kennyeyes that I got a while back that were small when I got them. Now they're big enough to hang with these bigger fish, and we're going to grow them on and see if we can get a result. They're one of the staple, the bread and butter types of cichlids that I keep talking about, and that if someone doesn't do them, they're gone, and people wonder why. A lot of these fish, I don't know whether people realise this, that are new to cichlids, have not been legal to import into Australia for coming on 30 years. I think the white list, as we call it, came into effect in the late 1990s, and that basically reduced the number of species we were allowed to bring into the country, and so many of these common species are no longer permissible imports, And because they're bread and butter things, if anyone is going to go to the trouble of being naughty and smuggling something in somehow, they go for more expensive and exotic things to turn a quick profit. So it's a bit pessimistic, unfortunately, but I don't know whether many people in the hobby realise that a lot of these fish we're working on are sustained by certain breeders that are willing to wear that for a long time. Anyway, didn't get anything out of my Pindanis this go around, or the black orange dorsals, or the well, these are supposedly hippo point salmons that I was supplied with a time ago. I'm not totally convinced as they grow on that they are such. So that tank was kind of a bit of a letdown, if I'm being honest, when I worked on that. We worked on our ACI and Stevani Eastern group, strip 3 ACI, got a good number of eggs bubbling away around the back, so another bread and butter species sort of perpetuated, and we'll grow them up and get them off to market. Did work with tetrastigma and rusties. We got a mouthful of tetrastigmas in the Zis box here, along with some, I think there was 2 small mouthfuls of rusties in there, and then we've got a tumbler rolling with a good number of tetrastigmas and rusties. Another job I did on this side, which was a long time coming, was to work with my Lethrinops Gold Harbours. We stripped 2 females here, so got some more eggs around the back. And the young Kalisa, I pulled a handful of excess males out, which has already had a bit of excuse me, a bit of an effect on the group. They've kind of calmed down a little bit, and I also added a bit more new sand to this tank, which is why it's a tiny bit cloudy, but the fish are looking well happy. Lovely leptosoma there, looking full of beans. I think, as I mentioned, the cold front we've got rolling around is tickling a few fish's fancy. Round the back we've had a spawn. Sorry, it's a bit of a dirty tank, but we've got some baby quarter punctatus here. We've had a nice little cloud of, sorry, I'm just trying to get the camera to focus on. There's been a good number of those produced in here. I still haven't been able to isolate the exact pair of fish. There's 4 adults in here, and they do my head in trying to work these fish out. Sometimes you'll see a pair that's obviously a pair sitting there one day, and then the next day there's 3 fish down there getting along, and then the next day there's 1 fish and 3 up this end looking stressed. Hard work to isolate that pair and probably get better yields. That's our clutch of ACI and possibly a Stevani Eastern. I did have some eggs turn up in the net at one stage when I was doing that job, so maybe a Stevani Eastern there. I think these are the Zebra obliquidon eggs. We've hopefully got, 80 or maybe even 100 there. Our Savorii have bred in the background of that tank. The loopy are going well in there. I think they've actually had a secondary spawn, which is kind of unusual. Babies seem to be staying in good numbers. These are our Gold Harbour Lethrinops. Next one along, red shoulder peacocks we stripped some of. One that I forgot to speak to on the fly around the back there was my, I've worked on Benga peacocks as well this week. Where are the Bengas? So another common peacock, but well worth the effort. So that's 2 females spat me eggs into that egg tumbler, and we've got a batch of fry in there amongst the small red empress. On the subject of red empress, that's the job I am going to get onto after I turn the camera off. This tank's in desperate need. I've got at least 3 female empress holding in here, and they always, because I believe this fish holds a bit less time than some of the others, I often end up missing because I go 3 weeks, and I think they can be stripped safely in, you know, 17, 18 days and get a good result with tumbling. I'll just have a quick look at the Bengas that I mentioned down the bottom here. Beautiful. I've got 13 odd fish. I had three clear males, of which 2 were well coloured like this and 1 was suppressing. I took the one that was suppressing out, and now I can only see one of the bright ones, so I'm a bit worried that he's now focusing all his aggression onto his mate. So that might be a reason to perhaps bring him back. But the reason I did that work is I'm actually going to get a little delivery of fish today, which hopefully includes some German bloodline Bengas. There's not much good German stuff coming up anymore, and I've managed to see some on a list, so I've grabbed a few to add back to the group. This line is from Thailand origin. Oh, there's our other male. So these look perfectly fine to me, but I'm going to add some German to it and continue to selectively pick out the fish that I do and don't like. And the other thing, I have got a pair of elongatus in this tank, a Lepidio lamprologus elongatus from Lake Tanganyika, and I pulled this tank down the other day completely and added some new sand like I mentioned earlier. So this tank's still got a little bit of sediment issue, but right at the end I did notice a baby fish kicking around in there, so I'm wondering whether the elongatus have bred for the first time, and one bubby has survived. So I'm going to get down on here with some food in a minute and try and work that out, because then I know that I've got a proven pair of elongatus here, which has been a long time project. Right, I'll switch off now, and I'll maybe include a bit of footage of the fish that are coming sometime later in the morning. Back then. So the box has arrived. There's not, I don't have the ability to open it in front of camera that easily, so that's what a box looks like when you take the lid off. It's not that exciting or glamorous. Bags of fish. Moving on to a couple of the things that came out of said box. We got some Dimidachromis strigatus here that popped onto the wholesalers list sometime since the weekend, and it's a fish that I do appreciate for a Malawi. They're a great shape, and certainly they become very attractive as they get bigger and males colour. So I went large. I've got 20 of these now, and they've looked to be happy in my water, up front and centre, looking for some tucker. So that's been a good outcome. Around the side here we got something that you don't see a lot of anymore advertised, and I've added to my Benga group the 5 German bloodline Bengas. So they're very clean looking fish. They're smaller than the colony, and the plan here is I'll utilise every fish, whatever females result out of these 5 fish I will obviously keep as part of the brood stock, and I guess the trick will be to evaluate which males I want to work with moving forward, given that I've got a couple of nice enough specimens already from the Thai bloodline, but we'll have a look at how those little guys turn out, and we'll see how it results. I'm pretty disappointed though. When I was letting those fish out, I noticed that I'd lost the fish since I did my big water change yesterday. So down there, unfortunately, is one of the pair of elongatus in really good condition, just dead. And I think what's happened is I've done the big water change, and we've had the cold front go over the top last night, and male looks like he might have stressed her out and knocked her off, unfortunately. So that's pretty disappointing. I did do a couple more jobs this arvo. This is a tank I haven't talked about much. This is my group of elongatus chauere, so that's a nice boy there. There's about 16 or 17 fish in here that haven't been breeding well for me, and so I've gone in and I've pulled out 6 spare males, and already we've got one there that's looking magnificent. So maybe there was just a little bit too much argy-bargy because of the colony being out of balance, and let's hope that gets the ball rolling for us. Beautiful fish. And the other thing I did was I got into a small grow out tank and have moved this batch of these are some of the frontosas. If you remember, I did a video back very late last year about working in the frontosa tank and getting barracuda and frontosa out. So I've just moved, I think I counted 108 of the little beggars into this large grow out tank here. So plan is to get them cracking on for size. Alrighty, that's enough of me for the week. I'm going to go inside and watch something on Netflix. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.